Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. Listen, guys, we are talking about the migrant crisis in the United Kingdom, civil war warning. And before we get onto this, and before you guys think, oh, civil war, right, look, guys, I think that this is a true statement. Every illegal migrant that comes to the United Kingdom pushes the United Kingdom closer to a civil war. Now, I think that statement is correct. Now, how far away you guys think we are from that? Yes, of course, that can be argued, and people can say, oh, it's a million miles away, or people can say, no, it's actually like a couple of inches away. But I do think that statement is correct. So, every migrant that comes to the United Kingdom, I believe each one puts us a step closer to an all-out civil war. Now, I've been talking about this for quite a while, actually. More people on the mainstream are talking about this. What I want to caveat for now is I don't think this is going to be a civil war as such. It would be, there's going to have to be a new name for it, because we're going to be already be in a state of World War III in Ukraine, fighting a war in Europe. There's also going to be near-peer adversaries influencing things that are happening on the ground. There's going to be criminal gangs. It's just going to be absolutely carnage. A civil war, in my interpretation, would be two clearly identifiable sides, each with goals and objectives. They fight it out, and at the end, the winner gets to decide the laws, basically. What's coming to the United Kingdom is far darker. It's much worse, guys. It's much worse. So I'm going to come on to that, but I want to focus on initially, guys. I want my opening monologue. I just want to start this and talk about the migrant crisis in the United Kingdom, because it does, as far as I'm concerned anyway, feel like we are on the absolute brink, and the waves of fury that are licking the shores of southeast England every day. Although the Labour government, they may have confirmed that because of Labour government policies, there's been no migrant crossings. I would say it's because of the really bad weather. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, strangers, and old friends and strangers from distant lands, if we have such a word, in the United Kingdom, the fog is thick. The fog on the water is thick, guys. It is. But in the halls of power or quiet streets, people really are overburdened with what's happening. And I don't really understand the rationale with the government right now. I don't understand the rationale of the government by not stopping these boats. Makes no sense. The boats can be stopped in a heartbeat, guys. These are not grand armadas of, Spanish conquistadors and warships coming over. They're like literally rubber dinghies. We have Royal Marines who can do this sort of stuff. I guess they could. They need to earn their pay somehow. So it would be very easy to stop the boats, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, obviously the next question is, why haven't they done that? As these more and more people come to our shores, we are fitting the bill here in the United Kingdom. And look, guys, I want to be quite clear here. I don't blame these migrants coming over. I don't blame them at all. It's our own government that is allowing this to happen. Now, I've speculated how and why that could happen. I've speculated that these guys could be used as, as infantry or conscripts in World War III. I've speculated that these people could be used to bolster the police force, although I think that unlikely because of the language barrier. But there's clearly a reason why the government has not put the anchors on these migrants. There's clearly a reason. I don't know what that is. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be going to northern France tomorrow. I'll be going to northern France, and I'll be letting you guys know what I found. I'll be doing lots of live streaming. I'll be making as much content as I can while I'm out there. I'm going to see what's happening out there. But what I'm getting at here is every migrant that comes to the United Kingdom, they inch the cracks of our society a little bit further. A little bit further. And I guess it's not just the migrants that are coming to the United Kingdom on the small boats. There's also hundreds of thousands of people that are outstaying student visas, that are coming here illegal, that are coming here on a tourist visa and just not leaving. So, but those people at least have a passport and we know who they are. These people who are coming over in boats, we don't know who they are. You know, we don't know who they are, and we are fitting the bill. Now, the low end estimates of this, and I don't know what the actual estimates are, guys. This is the government's own estimates. Shabina Mahmood's own estimates are that each migrant costs £30,000 a year. Now, I would speculate it's a lot more than that, but that's what should be, even at those estimates, guys. Even at those estimates, this is a mouth-watering sum of money. You know, as our public coffers are creaking, you know, like overloaded dinghies. So when we look at the, you know, as more migrants ship ashore, as more migrants slip ashore, the tensions are rising up. They are, guys. There's no denying this. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that is what's happening. You know, and each dinghy that sparks on, you know, each one of those dinghies would be, you know, bringing more, you know, public anger, you know, and each time this happens, there's more and more public anger. So what I'm saying to you guys, that each dinghy that turns up, each migrant that comes, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think everybody's welcome and, you know, everything is awesome, that's totally fine. But the reality is, you know, we are moving forwards to clashes. We've already seen, you know, these floods of unvetted, you know, and again, I'm going to use the mainstream media are saying, you know, unvetted fighting age men, which they are, you know, and anybody that says that they're women and children, you know, yes, there may be like one woman for every like 2,000 or something. I'm just making those statistics up, guys. I don't know. But the vast majority, you know, of those migrants are, you know, single traveling, you know, fighting age men. And a lot of these men, where the countries where these men are coming from, they have national service or conscription. So you could argue that these are military trained men. You could argue that, because a lot of these countries that these people come from, they are, you know, they have conscription, so they are military trained men. And if I was streaming on TikTok, I would get this next bit banned, but I'm not streaming on TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. To that then, can you guys make sure you do me a real big favor? Because I know I don't say this enough. Can you make sure, in fact, sorry guys, sorry. Let me put the chat on, guys. I totally forgot. The chat's on. Sorry guys, I do apologize. Can you make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen? If you've not done so already and you're watching the channel, hit those buttons down below, guys. Hit those buttons down below. Where was I? Sorry guys, where was I? So, you know, as this flood continues, the anger, you know, it's simmering at the moment. Okay, I've given you guys this scenario for such a while that the big pot, the big pressure cooker that the government have just bolted the lid on. I've given you guys that for a while, and at the moment that heat is still going. But at some point, that's going to boil over. It's going to, whatever analogy you guys want to make. If this continues and drastic action is not taken, and I mean real drastic action, like, for example, the year, I think the year from 23 to 20, is it? I can't remember what it was. I think that it might have been the year, it wasn't 23. I think the year 20, I think it was like June 20. Somebody fact check, guys. The numbers are correct, but the dates might be slightly wrong in here, guys. So if somebody can fact check me, that would be fine. The year from, I think it was from June 22 to June 24, I think the United Kingdom had 2 million extra people, over like 2 million extra people into the United Kingdom. It's not sustainable, guys. It's really not sustainable. That is not sustainable. So as we've already seen, guys, we've already seen this, haven't we? Like, you've already seen this on a micro level, whereby you have Eritreans fighting with Congolese, you have Pakistanis fighting with Indians. You know, we've already seen this start. You know, communities clashing, divisions are hardening. We are going to be barricaded very soon, guys. And I think, you know, this raise the flags. I don't know if anybody's done it yet, but I'm pretty convinced that somewhere in the United Kingdom there will be a row of Union flags on one side of a road and a row of, I don't know, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Somalian flags on the other side of the road. And if you live on this side of the road, you know not to go in this side of the road. And if you live on this side of the road, you know not to go on that side of the road. Can you imagine if your post office was on the other side? That's what's coming, guys. I've seen this. I've seen this in Northern Ireland. I did live it. I worked there when I was in the army, so I understand how all this stuff works. All right. That's what's, what? I'm not even going to say that's what's coming. I'm going to say that's what's already here. It's going to be a slow unraveling towards the unthinkable. And I've done videos on this before where people think, oh, that can't happen here. That can't happen here. Look, guys, I'll be honest with you. For the best part of the year, I've been saying to you guys, to everybody that'll listen, I've been doing lots of videos. It's been falling on deaf ears. I've been saying to you guys that we need the legal framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, right? You guys know I've been saying that. Turns out that Labour are now in the process of abolishing trial by jury, only for really difficult, really hard crimes. I think it's rape, murder, and manslaughter. I will be sharing some videos with you guys shortly in a minute about that. And they're cancelling elections, the mayoral elections next year. Do you see the slow direction we're going? Because very soon, trying to get the government to come to give us the legal protection to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, we're not even going to be able to do that because the government will drive down so hard on people. And if that, and literally, guys, that giving people that legal protection to protect themselves is the last chance that we have to avoid an all-out bloody civil war. Now, Paul, just bear with me, guys, here, okay? Just bear with me. Now, we just talked about, drastic measures. This doesn't need to end in, this doesn't end, the United Kingdom doesn't need to end in ashes, and I don't think it will. Ultimately, I think it's going to get, it is going to get a lot worse. But I think ultimately we'll come out the end of it and, things will be better because you guys know the meme, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. That's where we are right now. And Gen Z, guys, I know I get a lot of pushback on this, but I'm going all in on Gen Z. However, I'm going to give you guys, we need drastic measures from the government right now. We're not going to get them. I'll be quite honest with you guys. It ain't happening. We ain't going to get them. But we need mass, can you remember when Keir Starmer came up and he says, when he got elected and he said, we're going to smash the gangs. We're going to smash the gangs. Can you remember that, guys? He said, we're going to smash the gangs. Do you see any gang smashing? Do you see any gang smashing? I know I don't. And the situation has just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Till we are where we are right now, where we don't even have democratic rule anymore. We don't even have trial by jury. And very soon, we're not even going to have elections. That's where we are, guys, okay? So it turned from... So Keir Starmer went from, we're going to smash the gangs to, by smashing the gangs, I mean, I'm going to cancel elections and cancel trial by jury. So what I mean by drastic measures, and these are not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to happen. And I know they're not going to happen, but we need mass, and I mean mass deportations, on a scale that would make Donald Trump wince. That's what's needed to stop the inevitable. The next thing that we would need to stop all out, so that would be what the government can do, right? That the government right now, they don't. If they did that, we could avoid all out civil conflict. Again, it's not going to be a civil war because the civil war would be us versus them, and this is not going to be us versus them. It's going to be much more. much more fractured. So the next runoff, the next, the next off ramp would be if the people in the United Kingdom had a framework to protect ourselves. Now, if we had a framework to protect ourselves, we could deal with the problem ourselves. We're not going to get that either. I think I'm pretty convinced now we're too far gone. But if we had that legal protection to protect ourselves, we could say, okay, right, this is our area now. You guys don't come in, and that area would be safe. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to protect ourselves, guys. Like, wherever you live, if you live in, I don't know, say you live in Hartlepool, wherever, it doesn't matter, and just visualize it. And you live on a housing estate, and there's 100 houses, and what you do on those 100 houses is you close it all off, and you put your own security on those on those gates, and you don't let anyone in or out. Well, you control who's allowed in or out. I'm pretty sure that's against people's human rights, and that would be illegal. And I'm pretty sure if some, if a group of unsavories turned up and said, we want to come in, and they phoned the police for stopping them, because only the police have the authority. So, when you're walking, only the police have the authority to stop you and talk to you. You don't have to stop and talk to anyone. Only the police have the authority to do that. So I'm pretty sure that would be illegal. So that's not going to happen either. So, like I said right at the beginning of this live stream, guys, every irregular, what are they called now? Irregular migrants. They're not called illegal migrants now, guys, because that would insinuate that they're breaking the law. Irregular migrants that come to the United Kingdom. And I think this statement is true, guys. I do. I think this statement is true. Every irregular that comes to the United Kingdom pushes us closer to a civil conflict. Now, I don't know what this is going to be called. I don't think it can be called, I don't think it can be called a civil war, because, civil war is usually two sides with identifiable goals and objectives. Here we have kind of like lots of different goals and objectives and lots of different it's just going to be crazy, guys. It's going to be crazy. Right, let me jump on and get onto the chat, guys, because I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got 13 articles to get through. In fact, let me delete one because 13 is unlucky. Not that one. Yeah, I'll delete that one. I've got 12 articles to get through with you guys. Let me jump onto the chat. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, guys. Okay, so Toxic Goyhole is saying the gangs are NGOs who are taking government money to feed and is clothing imports at every stage of his journey. Yeah, so this is one of the things I'm going to be looking at next when I go to France tomorrow. I am going to be looking at the NGOs and looking at how they operate. Let me just give you guys some context. So northern France, particularly in areas like Calais, Dunkirk, Host, there are several NGOs. What I found out from the internet, this is in response to your comment, the main NGOs that I found there's an NGO called Utopia 56, and these are the key activities. So Utopia 56, and you guys can Google these. This is what I did. Utopia 56 is a French grassroots NGO operating directly in Calais and the surrounding camps. They provide on-the-ground support, including food, food distribution, tents, advocacy against evictions. They have, and they have blamed French policies for pushing migrants towards risky crossings, emphasizing the need for legal pathways so that migrants can make it to the United Kingdom. You couldn't make this stuff up, guys. You couldn't make this stuff up. These NGOs They monitored the police, claiming that the police are harassing migrants and asylum seekers, and they offer legal aid to asylum claims in France. You've also got another NGO called, I can't pronounce this, Abougier des Migrants. I think that translates to the Migrants Hostel. They're based in Calais as well. This is a volunteer-run organization that supplies clothing, hygiene kits, hot meals to thousands of migrants weekly. They also run a warehouse for donations and collaborations with other groups for winter distribution. French officials have accused them of enabling crossings by alerting migrants to patrols, though the NGO denies involvement. I'll give you some update on this, guys, because I have worked for several NGOs. You've also got Calais Kitchen, the Calais Kitchen, which is a UK registered charity. Yes, it is. It's a UK. They're registered in the UK, and they distribute meals, wood for fires, and blankets in Calais and Dunkirk. They advocate for safer routes and have condemned the increased policing for making crossings deadlier. In 2025, they reported aiding over 1,000 people making it to the United Kingdom. You've got Help for Refugees who do similar. You've got Médecins Frontières, which is Doctors Without Borders. They're actually quite good. I've worked for Médecins, and I know a lot of people. I know quite a few doctors who work for Médecins. They're, on the whole, they're good guys. Obviously, I don't know who the guys are in France. You've got Caritas France, which operates emergency shelter food in the region. You've also got France T. Alice. I don't speak any French, guys, so I'm probably butchering that. And they run asylum support centres in Calais and Dunkirk on French asylum processors, an alternative to channel crossings. So there's a ton of NGOs out there, guys, and they're all getting money. They're all getting money from somewhere. Now, I don't know where they're getting this money from. I can only assume taxpayers, because ultimately that's where all this money comes from. You know, you get foreign aid budgets. This foreign aid, like a British foreign aid budget, will go to X. That X will then look and they will say, right, what NGOs can we spend? We've got, you know, the foreign aid budget, for example. The government, sorry guys, the government will say, right, we need to spend, and this is what they do, guys. Trust me, I've worked for many NGOs. They have something called a burn rate. They do. They have something called a burn rate. NGOs don't think about profit. They think about how much money they can spend. Honestly, guys, it's a scam. So when you work for an NGO, nobody cares. You know, nobody cares about what you're doing. They just care about how much money you're spending. And that's kind of the thing that NGOs do. So, for example, the British government, they will have a foreign budget of, I don't know what it is. It's in the billions. And they will say, right, we need to spend this money every year on foreign aid. They go, okay, I got you. So what you're telling me is you need to spend this. I'm like, yes. So then they give that money to NGOs, non-government organizations. Those NGOs just burn through that money, guys. They don't really care because it's a tick in the box for everyone. It's a tick in the box all the way back because the government get to say, we've spent $2.8 billion on foreign aid this week or whatever. You know, the NGOs get to say, yeah, we've spent all the money you gave me. We've spent on this. We've spent it. I've worked for NGOs, guys. I have. I've worked for some of the biggest ones, and they're not a results-based organization. And listen, guys, I've worked in the public sector. I've worked in the private sector. I've worked for NGOs, which I don't even know what that is. The humanitarian sector, I guess. I've worked in all of these things, and I choose the private sector every time. I do, guys. I choose the private sector every time. You know, the private sector is so much better. It's faster. It's sharper. You know, it's more ruthless. It's more brutal. And I like being in the private sector because you sink or swim. You know, the private sector will only allow strong people to move through. It's like the jungle, guys. It's like, you know, it's like the jungle. It's like the jungle. You know, kill or be killed. Only the strong survive. Right, let me jump up, guys, and get some comments on the chat. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, I'm going to France tomorrow. I'm going to go to France tomorrow, and we are going to be documenting as much as we can. We're going to be going to the migrant camps. We're going to be trying to find the NGOs. I'm going to try and speak to the locals. I'm going to try and find these little small townships in and around Calais, in and around Dunkirk. I want to know what the public opinion is. I want to know what the French opinion is. I'm taking my friend with me who speaks French. So hopefully we're going to have some good content for you guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Right. Sorry. Sorry, Carol. Carol Buckley. Sorry. I do apologize. The chat's on now. Right. I'm just going to jump down, guys, because I'm just going to jump down. There's quite a lot on the chat this morning. All this morning, we're paying France not hard to figure out. All this morning, we're paying France not hard to figure out. I don't know what the situation is, guys. I can stand here, I can sit here and speculate that the French don't want these migrants in their country, so they let them cross. I can say that. I don't know. I'm going to be able to get you guys some on-the-ground truth as of tomorrow, I hope. 800 million paid to France, not hard to figure. Yeah, a lot of this money, guys. Look, guys, you know, I've worked for these NGOs. You know, the premise of a non-government organization, when people say, there's some really good ones, actually. There are some really good ones. There are also some really bad ones. And the problem is the way it's funded. The problems with these NGOs are the way they're funded. They're funded from people who don't care about where their money's being spent. Like, can you get, like, you know, when people donate, I don't know, when you donate, like, I don't know, whatever, X amount of pounds. First of all, you have even fundraisers as well. Even fundraising for NGOs is ridiculous, because those people who are raising funds, for NGOs, they take a percentage. And some of these guys take like 40%, you know, as admin costs. And again, you know, you can't argue with that, because that company who is raising funds, they've got staff to pay. They've got officers to run. You know, they've got, you know, stuff to do. And to raise funds costs funds. So, you know, you understand that where that happens. But the problem is, if I'm fundraising, right, just Stuart Turbot, right. So Stuart, if you're still on, mate, let me know. So Stuart, let's just say that Raven, I am fundraising for you, all right? So I'm the fundraiser, and everybody on the chat are the donors, all right? You guys on the chat are the donors, right? So I say to everybody on the donor on the chat list, right, or everybody on the chat, can you all, don't do this, guys, I'm just saying, like, can you all, in fact, I might get the video banned, I need to be careful. So let's just say I say to the public, okay, can you all donate X pounds or whatever, you know, and then all you guys donate that money to me. Right, so I get, let's make it easy. I get 100 quid, whatever. I get 100 quid. I then take my cut from that. I say, thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your donations. This is great. You've really done some great work. We're going to change a lot of people's lives for the better. I then give this to Stuart Turbot. But I give him 60 quid because I need 40 quid for myself now. I give him 60 quid. I couldn't care less what Stuart Turbot does with that money. I've got my money. I don't give a flying sausage what Stuart Turbot does with that money. Now, here's the scam, guys. Here's the scam. I, as the fundraiser, don't want anything negative to come back from Stuart Turbot, because that will look bad on me. So if I find out that Stuart Turbert's been paying all his staff, he just gave that money to his staff as a little bonus, I won't say anything about that, because you know what? The next time I do a fundraiser, I'm going to want to get paid again. And the whole thing, guys, it's a self-fulfilling scam. It is a self-fulfilling scam, and that's just the way it goes. And I've seen this, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen this in real time. I've seen NGOs from, country managers for NGOs lie on their reports. So, like, for example, now, Northern France, for example, let's just say that there's an NGO helping people in Northern France, and they have pictures, and there's all these guys smiling, and then they can write a little report about each one of those people, where they came from, what they suffered, what they've gone through. It's a total fabrication, because the donors are never going to find those people again. They're never going to find them. AJ Aesthetics is saying, how do I become a fundraiser? It is, guys. It's a massive scam. It's an absolute scam. It's a scam. And, like, they get you at nighttime, right? They get you, at nighttime when people are, at nighttime when they've got, like, save the donkeys, text, whatever number to save the donkeys. Where do you think that money's going? Toxic Goy Holes is saying all charities are scams. They never fix what they say, what they want to fix. In fact, they actively promote what they are claiming to fix. I wouldn't, listen, guys, I want to be clear. I wouldn't say all charities are scams, because I really have. I've worked with, like, for example, the war map I share with you guys on Ukraine? That's a charity. Some charities do good jobs, guys. Okay, look, guys, okay, if you can afford to give to a charity, just make sure you know what you're donating to. I would say local charities are the best ones. If you want it, look, guys, this is not financial advice. I'm not qualified to give anyone financial advice. If you want to donate to a charity, find a local charity, because they're usually the best ones, the smaller ones, because they're the grassroots ones. They're the ones that really want to do something. James is saying, is there something going on in Bristol today? A lot of people with balaclavas. Listen, guys, it's just a thing. It's just the thing now. It's just the thing. I think just wearing balaclavas now is just the thing. When you're, when I say to you guys, I'm not going to share that because there's loads of ads on the pages. I get ads for, like, balaclavas and stuff. I don't know what I've been clicking, but I get ads for, like, balaclavas and stuff. God's little helper is saying we are being taken for mugs. It does seem like it, guys. It does seem like it. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the crux of this video has been stand or fall. And this is a civil war warning, because I'm saying, this is me. Let me know what you guys think. I'm saying that every migrant, everybody that enters the United Kingdom illegally, let me add, illegally, everybody that enters, every illegal or irregular migrant that comes to the United Kingdom, I'm saying that is a step closer to an all-out civil conflict. Now, I don't think that statement is untrue. Now, whether people want to argue and say, oh, we're a million miles away from that, or whether people want to say, we're actually like tiptoeing into that outside of the Overton window. That's up to you guys. I think personally, we've already reached the point of no return, guys. I do. And I believe that drastic measures need to be done right now by the government. And I mean now, like, not tomorrow, not after this policy's been passed through, not after, I mean right now, guys. I mean absolutely right now. Because if that doesn't happen, we're going to have to defend ourselves. And if we don't have that legal framework to defend ourselves, we can't do it legally. And if we can't do it legally, it's going to be illegal. And that's where I'm going, guys, okay? I'm giving you guys the footsteps that would avoid all-out civil conflict and a massive amount of bloodshed. If you guys consider, historically, a civil war will take 1 to 4% of your population. They're not my statistics, guys. I'm not making that up. I'm not saying, well, I think right. I think that it will take. No, I'm not making that up, guys. I'm telling you what other civil wars take. And the civil war toll is about 1 to 4%. Well, it ranges between 1 to 4% of your population. Ladies and gentlemen, that is in the millions. All right. That's the death toll. I did Raven maths the other day. And what did we say? We said, I think we said a civil war in the United Kingdom would. I was sharing a video with you guys, and I think it was David Betts, and he was saying he predicts 23,000 people a year will be in the case of a civil war in the United Kingdom. That's what he's predicting. So, you know, I'm sloping my shoulders, guys. I'm sloping my shoulders. Anybody who wants to. David Betts, guys. It's David Betts, not me. David Betts who's saying that. Right, listen, guys. So if you live in the United Kingdom, these things are moving. The government are cancelling elections. Yep, the government are cancelling elections. They're cancelling trial by jury. And let me just share. Right, I've got a quick video to share with you guys here. I'll not share it all, but this is why it's so important that we have trial by jury.
The name of my video was definitely.
So, guys, listen, this is why it's so important to have trial by jury. Let me ask you guys this question. I'm going to ask you guys a question, actually. Do you think it's, I don't know the answer to this, guys. I don't know the answer to this. Do you think it's easier to corrupt one judge who you know who he is, you know where he lives, you know his name, you know where he works, or 12 people that you've no idea where they are? Which one do you think is easier to corrupt? I don't know. This is why it's so important that we have trial by jury, guys.
Just on my experience with the first two judges, even the first judge in the magistrates court wouldn't even let me speak because there was errors. The name of my video was "This is what I think," and they put it down as "This is what I believe," and I put my hand up to say that was wrong. And there was also errors on the transcript as well. And the transcript read that I started a riot en masse, where I said they started a riot en masse. And the actual video my actual video that was in the portal for the evidence wouldn't work. It was buffering all the time. So they were going off a transcript that was incorrect. And actually in that transcript, it said that I had started a riot en masse. And then...
Guys, can you see what's coming with the government abolishing trial by jury? Just listen to this, guys, okay?
Sorry. And then the judge wouldn't let me speak to kind of correct any of that.
Can you imagine now, right? You've put a social media post up saying, what a lovely day it is. You know, somebody's taken a screenshot, used AI, changed it. Now you're in the dock, and what? I didn't post that. No, jail.
And told me this wasn't a place for me to speak, and then remanded me in jail. So I just really didn't have chance.
I mean, it's nuts. I mean, obviously, I can kind of like smirk about it a bit now because you're out and about and you're found not guilty and all of that. But I mean, honestly, so when you see this plan now to scrap jury trials in all but the most serious cases, how do you feel about that? Are you concerned about it?
I just think it's just another way of them taking our rights away again. They're trying to chip away at our free speech with all this hate crime nonsense. And that's probably half the reason why a lot of these cases are stacking up. I mean, they're just ridiculous. People shouldn't be in jail for what they say, unless they, making direct, threats to kill and stuff like that, which I didn't. I was just basically trying to call for security on schools and parks after what happened in
Southport.
Southport incident, yeah.
And just on this, I mean, apart from the obvious, which is that you would currently be in prison, but how else would it have impacted your life? I mean, presumably, once you've got a criminal record and you've been behind bars for a bit, I mean, that would have had knock-on effects to your life, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, could have lost my house. My little girl's mental health would have been wrecked. In the 3 weeks I was in prison, she's autistic, and I've never been away from her for more than a couple of days.
Guys, look, I'm going to stop sharing that now. But just think about what's happening. All right. He got, this guy here, he put a video out, after what happened in Southport. And let's never forget that, guys. Okay. Let's never forget that. He put a video out, because he was worried. He was, the tensions were high, guys. He's an ex-Royal Marine, and I do give Royal Marines a bit of a hard time, but, they've been to places and they've seen stuff like I have, and they understand. And when you've been places and you've witnessed this, you have these flashbacks. And, for me, I see blood. And for me, it's a massive thing. And I just don't want to see that anymore. Now, so he will have been emotionally charged. The jury took 17 minutes to say, yeah, there's no case here. He's not done anything wrong. But he already spent 3 weeks in remand. Remember, the process is the punishment, guys. The process is the punishment. So here we are in the United Kingdom, guys, and the government are wanting to remove trial by jury, okay? The Labour government want to remove trial by jury. Ironically, this is a post from Andrew Bridgen. Tulip Sadiq MP convicted of corruption and facing a prison sentence in Bangladesh. She claims that she didn't get a fair trial because she was tried in front of a single judge who was politically motivated. Oh, little Tulip Sadiq. I do love Tulip Sadiq, guys. I love Tulip. I love Tulip Sadiq. Like, it's like this slow, methodical move forward to just stripping rights from people. And, the trial by jury, people, most normal people, me included, I'm like, right, okay, I'm not gonna, honestly, like I don't go anywhere to commit, like to do crime and stuff. I don't, so for me, I say that. But if I put a Facebook, I don't have Facebook, but you guys know I'm going, right? Like for social media posts and stuff, like even talking to you guys now, I'm like, this is why I always go to someone else, and I always slope his shoulders. I always say, oh, I didn't say this, somebody else said this, because we are at a place now, guys, where you guys have just seen that yourself. So this guy, he's in court, all right? This guy's in court, and all the evidence is wrong. And he's saying, no, that evidence is wrong. And the judge tells him he's not allowed to talk and sends him out of the courtroom. And you're like, how is that even real? Like, how is that even real? I mean, it's only going to be a matter of time before, AI is doing these posts. Look, guys, if you can send somebody to jail, if you can send someone to jail for a Facebook post, without letting them defend themselves and show counter evidence to say, I didn't post that, you can send anybody to jail for nothing. That's where we are right now, guys. That is literally where we are right now. And of course, Labour have started to, cancel elections as well. Labour have started to cancel elections. Sean, my family name is Norman. Translates to Valaville in France, as is yours. To think you'll be in northern France witnessing another invasion. A 10p. I don't know what that means, a 10p. I was talking to my friend about that as well. We were saying, yeah, it's it looks like, history, like ancient history repeating itself again. Rocketman Gaming is saying, unfortunately, if the government was going to do something, they would have already... Guys, exactly. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I think this comment is the best comment of the day. Just remember this comment, guys. If I could... Listen, Rocketman Gaming, if I could pin this comment all the live stream... I don't know. Can I move that? No, I can't. Yeah. Guys, listen, when you're looking at the situation in the United Kingdom right now, just remember this comment here. If the government was going to do something, it would have already been done. Just leave it there, guys. Like, leave it there. That is a perfect, That's perfect. So voting, getting little tulip. Guys, do we love tulip? I love tulip Sadiq. I love tulip Sadiq. I love tulip Sadiq. And you know when we talk, you know what I've talked about subversion, right? You know what I've talked about subversion. You know all these useful idiots, you know, bum 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 bum. You know all these stupid idiots, these useful idiots. Sorry, you know these useful idiots. They will be the first. They will be the first to be sent to prison. You know, they'll be the first to be sent to prison because they think that they have rights. I know we don't have rights, guys. I've been telling you guys for a long time we don't have rights. You know, and anybody who thinks we do. Right, I want to talk. I've got another video here, guys. It's by I think his name's Liam Tufts. They're talking about civil war and martial law coming to the United Kingdom.
Because they won't be able.
What's his name? Is it Liam Tufts? I think whatever his name. I think it's Liam. I don't know.
Where can you see Britain in 5 years' time from now? You've probably thought about this.
I have, and I didn't want to answer it because if we carry on with this trajectory, either we come to a civil war or martial law.
What's martial law?
It's where the government put the troops on the streets, and if you're out after a certain time, you'll be shot.
Okay, just quickly, guys, okay? The government do not have, hear me out, the government do not have the manpower to do that. So where do you think they're going to get this manpower from? Where do you think they're going to get this manpower from? You guys know the answer, right?
Because they won't be able to control the outrage and anger that's welling up, that I see every single day when you have government decisions that are actually murdering people. When you've got £50 million spent on the nation of sanctuary, but you've got ambulances queued up for 15 or 18 hours with people in the back of them in hospitals and dying needlessly. There's going to come a point, and that point is within that 5-year bracket.
So he's saying there's a 5-year bracket before civil war. And look, guys, you know, I've been quite clear. I've been telling you guys for a long time how we deal with it. It's not going to happen. So the inevitable will happen. You know, it's like if you get a hole in your sock and you don't deal with it, it's going to get bigger. That's the inevitability. Doesn't matter. You know, it does not matter. Doesn't matter if you say, oh, it's only a little hole. It will get bigger. That's an inevitability. You know, I have lots of holes in my socks because we have wood floors. We only have carpets upstairs. So like I get holes in my socks all the time. And I know that once I get a hole in that sock, it's just going to get bigger. That's the inevitability, guys. All right. We have a hole in our sock in the United Kingdom. And if we don't fix it, the bigger it gets, the harder it is to fix. And I think, in my professional opinion, we're already too far gone. The government are clamping down on elections. They're fucking hell. Imagine saying, listen to what I just said. Guys, listen to what I just said. The government are clamping down on elections. I'm not making that up. The Labour Party are due to close, I think, 6 mayoral elections in next year. There's supposed to be 6 mayoral elections. The government, well, they're not cancelling them. They're postponing them. It's just, you know, once you start fucking about with people's liberties, remember, a liberty can be something that's taken away. You know, all hell breaks loose.
Do you think it's purposely done by design? Do you think the whole importation of illegal migrants from countries that have been born and raised to hate us, do you think that's all part of the plan?
Absolutely.
So they can enforce martial law, which is communism on steroids?
Absolutely. Yeah, yes, it is. And that's where we're going. You know, the digital ID's got nothing at all to do with we'll be able to stop migrants from working.
That's insulting.
What glue is that man on?
It is pretty insulting, that, guys. You know, saying that digital ID will stop migrants from working. It's embarrassing, guys. It's embarrassing. You know, it's embarrassing. We really are. You know, we really are. I don't know when this is going to happen. It does seem like it's getting closer every day, guys. It does. It seems like it's getting closer every day. I've got another video to share with you guys as well. Where, hang on, give me a second. Not that one. Is it that one? No, not that one. Not that one. Is it that one? Not that one. We've done that one. Go. What is it? This? Oh, I may not have. Here it is. This one. Right. Okay. So, you know, I tell you guys all the time that you get these intellectuals who have no idea what they're talking about, right? I'm going to jump over to the Ukraine conflict now. But the crux of this live stream, guys, is going to be stand or fall and what's coming to the United Kingdom, guys. And I do think this is a fair statement. I do think it's a fair statement to say that every migrant that comes to every illegal migrant that comes to the United Kingdom, I do think that pushes us closer to a civil war, guys. I do. I think that's a fair statement. Obviously, if you want to maximize that on the macro, if you just sent it, if right now, imagine if right now that you did it all in one day, you put 1 million people and just put them in the middle of the United Kingdom. 1 million people. It'll be chaos, carnage, but it's happening slowly. So ultimately, I do think that statement's correct. Right. Listen, guys, a few other things I say on this channel when we're talking about Ukraine. I say to you guys, don't listen, guys. Do not listen to anybody unless they're saying exactly the same as me. Because you get a lot of these, commentators who look very old and they're professors and they're a professor in war studies and they've got all these degrees and intellectual accolades. This is a prime example, guys, of somebody who has no idea what he's talking about, but he sounds posh.
Unsatisfied. President.
So listen to this guy here. He's I'll get his. In fact, let me get his accolades. He is. This guy is called Lord Robertson, who helped with the Strategic Defence Review. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Lord Robertson doesn't know what he's talking about. I do. But because he's called Lord Robertson, people listen to him. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, guys. I'm going to pull him to pieces right now, politely.
Putin was ridiculing the idea that he might go to war at any point with NATO or European countries. Do you trust him on that?
I don't trust him at all.
I'll go with that.
I don't think he can be trusted because the speech that he made yesterday was genuine nuclear saber rattling, which I think is profoundly unsatisfactory. And I think that the Chinese and the North Koreans and the Iranians who are in partnership with them will be very worried about that kind of nonsense. At the moment, he cannot beat NATO.
So straight away, all right, this is the problem, all right? This is the problem with this is the type of person that will brief the government. He's a lord. He sounds very respectable, and he's saying, Vladimir Putin cannot beat NATO. Okay, right, fair enough.
NATO and the NATO countries, are substantially more powerful than he is.
He doesn't know what he's talking about, guys. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand warfare. He's only looking at numbers. He's only looking at numbers on a piece of paper. He's not looking at things like asymmetric warfare. He's not looking at things like, the use of conscripts. I can pretty much guarantee this guy would say this. The poorly trained Russian conscripts will have no significant impact on the highly trained NATO troops. I would envisage a 10-to-1 kill ratio. He'll say things like that. But for those of you guys who've been following my channel, I've been saying doesn't matter because it's the time that it takes to replenish the NATO troops. This is the problem, guys. This is the problem when we talk about the Ukraine conflict. People like this are, guys, I've never met this guy. I'm sure he's a great guy, but he's vastly, he's an academic. He's an academic, and he's not looking. He's an academic, and I would speculate that he's had no time on the front line. He doesn't know what real warfare is like, and all he can do is look at numbers. And he will be saying, I can guarantee you, he's one of the guys that are saying NATO can outspend Russia $100 to their $12. I would like to ask him, okay, what's being produced? The Russians are producing poorly manufactured weapons and systems. Okay, but how long is it taking them to produce them? How quickly, on what scale can the Russians produce them and get them on the front line? Oh, very, very quickly. Okay, what about our NATO precision best equipment welded by all the best engineers sent to Japan for the sanitation, sent to Sweden to put the bomb in it? How quickly can we do them? Oh, it takes bloody forever, and there's a really big supply chain issue. Yeah, exactly. These guys don't know what they're talking about, guys. I may show that video again later on today when I think I'm going to talk about. I'm going to concentrate on northern France, guys. I want to concentrate on the migrant crisis, but I just want to share that video because he is. Oh, hang on a minute. Russia would lose a war against all of Europe. That is not even a question. I don't. Okay. Okay. First of all, what do we mean by what do we mean by a war? What do we mean by a war? All right. What do we mean by a war? Do we mean by a war by where we say? I'm not even going to get into this. You could be better. I've given you. I'm not going to get into that, guys. I'm not going to get into that. They can't. Okay. A fully blown war. Okay, first of all, we're never going to have a fully blown war. Nobody will ever stand up ever again and say, I hereby declare a state of war against Russia, or I hereby declare a state of war against all European countries. It's never going to happen, guys. It's never going to happen. What I will say is, on paper, that would seem to be the case. But what people don't take into consideration is that's not how it's going to be fought. It's like when people say, guys, I'm not going to talk about Russia. What I'll talk about is asymmetric naval warfare really quickly. I'm going to go through asymmetric naval warfare, right? Because this is a really, really, really easy one to think about, right? The U.S. Navy is the biggest. I think it's the biggest navy in the world by a factor of 10. By a factor of 10. The U.S. Navy is the biggest navy in the world by the factor of 10. Could the U.S. Navy defeat the Russian Navy? Yes, they could. They on a full-blown green warfare, but that's not how the Russians are going to fight. They're going to use asymmetric naval warfare, so they are going to be sinking ships from civilian shipping vessels. Asymmetric warfare, it's very easy to envisage. Now, there's so many complexities in this. And to send thousands of Russian conscripts into Europe, and you don't tell you that you don't have to supply them. You just say, right, you guys are now Russian conscripts. Go into Europe, pillage your way through Europe, steal whatever you want, it's yours, and just keep pushing east. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? It's going to be carnage, So, That's where it is, guys. That's where it is. And there's nothing, you know, we're not ready for it. We are not ready. We are not ready, ladies and gentlemen. We're not ready. So doesn't matter how much money people spend, we're not ready to deal with that threat. We don't have guns in Europe, for one. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the crux of this live stream is going to be, listen, guys, if you're joining for the first time, I'm going to Northern France tomorrow. I'm going to be reporting on the migrant crisis. I don't know what I'm going to find. I don't know, guys. I don't know what I'm going to find. We'll be setting off tomorrow morning to, well, I guess tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be setting off to Dover. We're going to get the ferry from Dover. And then from there, guys, I don't know what I'm going to find. We're probably, you know, we're just going to improvise on the ground. But I do want to get you guys some real world updates on, it's raining. I do want to get you guys some real world updates, and you know, I want to find out for myself what this migrant crisis is all about. I want to find out if things are as bad as people say, and ultimately I want to consider how to stop that migrant crisis at source, guys. I want to figure out how to stop the migrant crisis at source, because we can't stop it. Like when this comes to the United Kingdom, there's no point there. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to do that. So I'll be going out there. I'll be doing a full reconnaissance on the migrant crisis, and I'll be reporting back to you guys what we've got. No, sorry, NATO been trying for years, can't beat Russia. So first of all, what people don't understand is what does a win mean, and a win for who? Like, what does a win mean? First of all, like, what is a win? What's the objectives? If Russia goes to war with Europe, who wins? But what's a win for Europe? Do they want to take the whole Russian territory? Is that a win? Is that a win for Europe? Because that's not going to be a win for Europe. That's going to be an absolute nightmare with asymmetric warfare and partisanism, if that's a word. It should be. It is now. I'm a fully qualified English gentleman, and it's my birthright to make up words. What would be a win for Russia? The total capitulation of the whole of Europe? The whole of Europe down to where? Does he want to take Italy? Does he want to take France? Does he want to take Spain and Portugal? Like, what is a win for, you know? So it's very difficult, you know, it's very difficult to say what a win, you know, if people break out in a war, what's a win? And what people don't understand is, well, you know, we're not in Second World War times right now, guys. We're in 2025, almost 26. Wow, guys, it's 6 years ago since COVID. Wow, 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Wow, 6 years ago. Wow. So to try and understand this, there's a lot more complex. There's a lot more complexities than looking at the Russian military and looking at, I don't know, the British military. For example, like the British military, we only have 19,000 troops. Yes, I know that the British military stands at 73,000. The army, guys. I'm talking about the army. We only have around 19,000 infantry troops. So can't do anything with 19,000 guys, you know, and this is what I've been saying. The scale of the conflict in Ukraine is a lot bigger than people, you know, people are thinking about the war in, about Afghanistan. People are thinking about Iraq, which were essentially counter-terror operations, where you would take down the ringleaders, and the rest of the groups would fall. More stuff from Ukraine, guys. NATO countries are planning to spend $1 billion a month next year. That is a phenomenal amount, guys. That is a phenomenal amount. Now, the Europeans understand that they need to deal with this at source, like we need to deal with the migrant crisis at source. The Europeans understand that if this thing spills over into Europe, and they make it into Poland, they make it into, you know, the Baltic nations, It's going to be chaos. It's going to be carnage because we are not ready in Europe to take a Russian invasion. We're not, guys. We're not ready. Like, how are you going to deal with that? The way NATO fought, guys, you know, I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue because I'm right. And I don't want to waste time on arguing that I'm massively, you know, giving you guys the scenarios. James Brook is saying Russia is growing stronger, but Russia is growing stronger, but Russia is growing stronger by the day, outproducing NATO, US by 8-1, has 400,000 soldiers literally doing nothing. Don't underestimate the Russians. Okay, so when we think about warfare, we think about, like, you know, when we think about a world war, we think about, we naturally envisage World War II. We do, guys. This is the only thing we can, you know, it's the only, like, visualization we've got of a world war, right? Where you've got these two opposing forces, all right? Two opposing forces with tanks and stuff, and you've got trenches. Right? Am I right? Yeah, am I right? World War III is not going to be that, all right? It's going to be the NATO forces, or for you guys, it's on this side, the NATO forces with all their stuff, you know, all their stuff. And they're going to be operating to a set of rules and a set of guidelines and, you know, law, the rule of law. So, you know, you get your private soldier up front, and then there's a section commander behind him, and then there's a platoon commander behind him, then there's, you know, the whole structure, and you've got this rank structure, and they're moving forwards, you know, in like a triangle. If they're wanting to navigate, they'll move in a triangle with one platoon at the front because it's easier to navigate. If they're expecting to get shot at, they're going to move with two platoons at the front because you get more firepower down. So that's how the NATO forces are going to work. And when you put those NATO forces against what people perceive to be a poorly trained conscript force, absolutely, it's a whitewash. It's a whitewash. But that's not what's going to happen, guys. That's not what's going to happen. These conscripts are going to be in civilian clothes, civilian cars. You're not going to know who they are. They're going to be getting around the back of you, attacking you from behind, attacking you from the flanks. They're going to be taking civilians, hostages, and all sorts of crazy stuff. We're not ready for this. We've seen this happen, and you can't. It's going to be virtually impossible to deal with this, guys. Go on. The bad guys, for example, the bad guys, they will have seen how effective asymmetric warfare is against conventional. I've seen this myself, guys. Guys, don't forget, I've spent a lot of time in the military in various places around the world, and I know how difficult it is to fight an asymmetric enemy. It's virtually impossible. Imagine this, guys, right? Imagine this, right? You're there, you've got all your uniform on, you know, you've got all your uniform on, you've got your helmet, your body armor, your night vision goggles with the things on the side, and you're doing your Call of Duty stuff, and some guy jumps in the front of a doorway, fires a burst, 30 rounds out of an AK-74 or whatever, takes two of your guys down, and then runs off. He's in civilian clothes. So you chase round, and you come round the corner, and it's just a load of people at a market eating their dinner. Well, how would you deal with that? How would you deal with that? You've just lost two guys, maybe more. The gunman, you can't identify him. And even if you could, you still can't identify him because he's wearing civilian clothes. And the law of armed conflict, you can't attack non-combatants. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? How much did that cost? How much did that attack cost? How much training did that guy have? That guy who just ran around a corner in a doorway and fired a burst of ammunition into your patrol, you've taken two casualties, you've taken two people out of the battle. How how long did it take to train those two guys? How long did it take to train the guy who just fired a burst? So where you get these people, these intellectuals saying, yes, the British military have had at least 6 months training and are highly trained. Yeah, I get that. That conscript isn't. And he's going to, there's more complexities, guys. There's more complexities. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've just looked at the time. I am going to start to close this down. Mark is saying over 27 million Russians died during World War II. So that proves to you guys that the Russians are willing to push forwards. They're willing to take these attritional losses. Guys, listen, I am going to close this down. Right, hang on, let me... Yeah, guys, I'm going to close this down. The crux has been, we've been talking this morning about the wave of migrants coming to the United Kingdom and how I'm saying, and I think this statement is true, guys, every migrant that comes to the United Kingdom pushes us closer to a civil conflict. Now, there's going to have to be a new name for it because it's not going to be a civil war where there's two sides and it's going to be more complicated for that. But I can't think of a better name for it. So for now, I will call it a civil war. And at some point, we're going to have to, people are going to have to stand up. The government are cancelling or postponing elections in the United Kingdom. I thought they only did that in dictatorships and, banana republics. And they're also stopping trial by jury. We've already seen how bad things can get, guys. Okay. Ultimately, I think the cards are already on the table. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I'm going to France tomorrow. I'm going to go to France tomorrow. I'm going to check out the migrant crisis, see what's happening over there. I'll be reporting back to you, fine people. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, guys. I'll be back on later today at 8.